stupid, worthless, no good, freeloading son of a big mouth, know-it-all, ugly, lazy, disrespectful. It's always a little intense when I say those things. But imagine you're a teenager, like our old school friend here from the Breakfast Club, and you hear these words day in and day out. As an adolescent therapist, I do know that these terms are still being used to describe teens. And I also hear things like, oh, God, teens, they're so selfish. They don't care about anything. They're so bad. And, well, difficult. Difficult is damaging. When it causes our children to define themselves as problems, it strips away their self-esteem. Show of hands. How many of you at some point of your life have been called difficult? Whether it's been at home, work, school, maybe a variation of it, challenging, demanding, or my personal favorite, high maintenance. Yeah, I think we've all been there, right? Well, I was that difficult teen. At least that's what I was called. Because I was seen as the wastoid, the dropout, and the lost cause. And yes, I was those things, and I was a rebel, but I was also someone that was desperate to be seen as something more than the problem child. But difficult got in the way, and difficult was damaging. And as adults, we're more equipped to shield ourselves from these terms and these phrases when people say it. But teens, they take them as a truth. And when they hear it often enough, it becomes a core belief. And it affects them not just today, but their entire lives. The good news, though, is that we can disrupt this damage. And we start by first understanding what the word difficult even means. So American Heritage Dictionary defines difficult as something that is hard to endure, hard to solve. So let's say I came out here tonight and I said, oh man, you guys are difficult. I've just implied that you're hard to endure. And quite frankly, you'd probably tune me out. Now imagine you're a teenager and somebody says, you're so difficult. You hear that you're a problem, but not just any problem, one that is too hard to solve. And as adults, we're not saying these things because we want to hurt kids. It's just the opposite. We care so much. We want to see them grow into themselves, to be all that they can be, to see them succeed. But what happens is that we get really busy and we go into autopilot. And autopilot's great when we're chugging along, we're busy, we're knocking things out. But when we're in autopilot, we're not aware, because autopilot and awareness don't reside in the same house. And we miss the signs of what kids are feeling. Things like sadness, anger, confusion, worry, self-doubt, even despair. And we end up calling teens difficult rather than their feelings. And these really are difficult feelings. According to Stage of Life, an adolescent research think tank, 95% of teens, take that in, 95% of teens feel inferior to others. And on top of just feeling inferior, anxiety and depression are on the rise, with over 25% of kids being diagnosed every single year. And the effect of that, missed classes, failing grades, anger, isolation, withdrawal, substance use, even self-harm. There's also an effect on you. You might be missing more days of school or work. Maybe there's increased tension in the home or even your community. It could even bring up your own feelings of shame, guilt, or self-doubt. And often people will say, but Julie, these are kids someplace else. I know these kids here. And you're right, you do know them. Because it's Evan who plays baseball for high school. It's Sarah who babysits your kids. It's Jane, the neighborhood girl who seems so bubbly. And it could even be your own child. The other question people will say, well, then if I know them so well, why aren't they coming to me and asking me for help? I'm here. I care. Well, I would love to say it's that easy, but if you have spent time with teenagers, if you have lived with them, if you work with them, in my case both, they don't do anything we expect. They don't really listen a lot to what we want them to do. And there's a reason for that. And it's in their head. It's literally in their head. It's the way their brain is wired. And there's a lot going on up there. But there's two things in particular that we want to pay attention to. And that's their prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. The prefrontal cortex is a portion of the brain that manages emotions, impulse control, and reasoning. In teens, this is not fully developed. In fact, it doesn't even develop until they're 25 years old. But the other piece is the amygdala, and that's how we respond to a threat. It's our fight or flight response. And for teens, this is fully developed, and it's kicking into high gear. So the translation is, we are seen as a threat. Kids see us as a threat, and they fear us because they're worried that we're going to judge them, to label them, so they won't come to us for help. And I want to give you an example of how this plays out. So I mentioned Jane, kind of the bubbly neighborhood girl. She's everybody's friend. Nobody ever thinks anything's going on with her. But you see, she's struggling. She's overwhelmed in school. She's feeling anxious, worried, but she doesn't want to tell anybody. She doesn't want to tell her teachers or her parents, not even her friends. She's worried that they're going to label her. So she takes matters into her own hands. And she says, I want to ditch class. That seems like a great idea. I'm not there. I'm not worried. It's all good. My anxiety goes away. But her teacher doesn't see that Jane's got these difficult feelings, just sees that Jane's ditching. Calls up the guidance counselor and says, God, that Jane, she's difficult. Can you deal with that? Talk to the parents. Guidance counselor calls the parents and says, we need to have a talk. Jane's difficult. And her parents sit Jane down and they say, Jane, why are you so, you guessed it, difficult? And everybody is so busy labeling Jane as difficult that they don't see her difficult feelings. And now Jane, when she looks in the mirror, doesn't see herself as a person with a problem, but she's the problem. And I'd love to say that this is an extreme example, but this happens every single day. However, we can change that. You, me, we can change it. And we're going to start right now tonight. And the first thing we have to do is we have to remember how to empathize with kids. We have to remember what it's like for us to be a teen. So I'm going to have you play along with me here. Take a breath and close your eyes. And I want you to think of a time when you were 12, 13, maybe you were 15, 16. What do you remember seeing? Hearing? What do you remember touching? Or their tastes? Smells? Every time I do this, the thing that comes up for me is Mountain Dew and Corn Nuts. Go figure. I still haven't figured that one out, but apparently that was my food group. Now that you have that picture, I want you to go just a little bit deeper. What do you remember feeling? Were you scared? Excited? Worried? Did you feel like people listened or saw you, saw the real you, or did they see something else? Now hold on to that feeling, and you can open your eyes now. That's the place where we have to meet teens, is where we were when we were that age. For us to truly understand teenagers, we have to go back and remember what it was like to be one ourselves. Because when we are in that place, we see them as a person and not a problem. Which takes us to the second thing. A person is a person, and a problem is a problem. They are two separate things. The first time I heard this, I was in college, and I remember thinking, clearly this person has never met my calculus teacher. That person is the problem, and has been for 3 semesters in a row. But she wasn't the problem, because people cannot be problems. People cannot be solved or fixed. Changed, sure, but only by their own doing. So we have to remember that teenagers are not problems. They are people. And again, people are people. People have problems. And that takes us to our last last piece that we can do, we can start now, is we know teens aren't going to come to us, so we've got to go to them. And we've got to listen. And we listen first with our ears, and we can say, what's going on? Are you okay? What do you need? Is there something I can do? It'd be great if we could just stop right there, but we can't. Because what you're going to be met with is, I don't need you. I'm okay. Whatever. I'm fine. So we also have to listen with our eyes. Do you notice that their shoulders are slumped, their eyes are down? They're pulling away but holding your hand. And yes, these are symptoms of being teen. Let's get real. There's also symptoms of being just a teenager. So we have to listen with something else. We have to also listen with our gut. If you have that gut feeling that something is going on, chances are there are something going on, that the teens in your life are dealing with a difficult feeling. And when you listen with your ears, your eyes, and your gut, you are sending the message that I see you and I hear you. You're not a problem. You are a person. And I see all the pieces of you. I see that you are caring and quirky, a little angsty, wild, even reckless. And that's how teens do see themselves before they feel they are the problem. And bringing it back to the Breakfast Club, I think there is a line in there that summed it up so well, how teens do see themselves when they don't feel they are difficult, that they're not the problem. You see us in the most simplest terms, in the most convenient definitions. But what we have found is that in each one of us is a brain, an athlete, a basket case, a princess, and a criminal. Together, we can disrupt the damage of difficult. And it doesn't have to get in the way for our teens, our communities, for you, and yeah, still for me. Thank you.